To order a regular meeting of the Board of Education, March 21st, 2023 at 7 o'clock p.m. Cindy, could you please call the roll?
Dremel,
Here.
Kilburg,
Here.
Locke,
Here.
Lowe,
Present.
Mathis,
Here.
Meadows,
Present.
Meitzler.
Here. All right, Mr. Kilburg, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Dr. Hitchens, are there any items to be removed from or added to the agenda tonight?
There are not.
All right, favorite thing for all of us is we're going to start with some celebrations. I would like to invite Scott Bayer and Ryan Farwell to tell us about wrestling this year.
That's where that stays. Okay. You guys hear me okay? Well, I thank you for the opportunity to come here and acknowledge some of the accomplishments of our kids this year. Ryan speak about Mr. Farwell, Coach Farwell, speak about the boys' side. But I would like to say before I get going how proud I am to see him do a great job with those guys this year and their team. So having done that for 10 years, it's a labor of love, and he's doing a phenomenal job with it. But I'm here to talk about our girls' team. It's my first year doing that, and so it's been a very fun year for me. It's been a breath of fresh air in a lot of ways. I'm super proud of these girls that we have in attendance. We have some of their teammates here as well. I guess what I'm most proud of is the process that they've committed to. They're doing something very hard, and it's not popular yet. It's going to be. Girls wrestling is the fastest growing sport in the country for in all areas, college, high school, and also youth. So these guys are groundbreakers, as have been the girls that in our district that came before them. But we've got a lot of really young kids on our team, a lot of freshmen and sophomores, and most of them are pretty inexperienced. We do have a couple girls here who've been wrestling through our club and are homegrown talent, and been wrestling since they were real little, and Lily's still real little, but they've represented Batavia for a long time, and so super proud of these three girls' accomplishments. I want to say that one of the things I feel best about is being able to offer this sport to the 51% of our population that I think will benefit from as much as we have on our 49% side. So I did an end-of-season survey, and to a person, they talked about the resilience they built, the confidence they built, the ability to, sort of overcome obstacles and conquer doubt and things like that, and really derive a deep sense of accomplishment from what they're doing. So, and I think the biggest thing that they've developed is kind of a sisterhood with each other, and that's been real special for me because the two girls that I'm going to talk about tonight that have been part of our club, they've been doing this kind of on their own in a lot of ways. And so they've got teammates now, and I'm super proud of that. But the girls that I have here, I'd like you guys to come stand over here if you guys would. Lily and Sydney and Susu, come on over. You have to be seen. So, because they're the ones that ended the season on a really high note. I just want to give them the credit they deserve. And so I'd like to talk about Susu first. She's a senior for us. She was in my class during hybrid, and so I couldn't put my recruiter hat on as well as I would have liked to have. I had her and Brad's daughter Lily in my class, and they both came out this year as seniors. Both had great years, and Susu, I knew was going to have a really great season. I should talk about our schedule, but we went to Iowa, and I had to find a schedule that would accommodate our experienced girls and also our novice girls too. And girls wrestling is a very similar place throughout the Midwest, and so I knew if I kind of picked out the right tournaments, the girls could find their way to have some more experienced girls to wrestle, those that had some experience. And so I knew that Susu was going to be in the hunt for a strong state finish when she wrestled the returning state champ from Iowa into overtime. And this was very early in the season. She's got great balance, and she's really strong, and she throughout the season, she won tournaments. She placed in most of the tournaments she wrestled in. She was a sectional champ this year. and finished with 28 wins and really could not have had a better season, and we're super proud of her. And so that's Sue Paw. So let's give her. And Lily Enos, who's a freshman, like I said, she's a product of our wrestling club. Her parents have, coached and helped out, are really active here in the community. And I'm going to talk about Sydney next, but, Lily grew up through the club having Sydney kind of as a role model. And when Lily came into school, we talked a little bit, and she didn't think we could find teammates for her. She's been, wrestling for a long time, and I know she's talked to friends about wrestling, but we found some teammates for her. And she was the one reason I think a lot of them stayed out. She really has a great attitude and is a good young leader on our team. And she finished with the third highest win total that we've ever had in the program. She finished with 44 wins this year. And she was a champion at Pontiac, a really big tournament down there. She placed at our tournament in Wisconsin. She placed at our tournament in Ohio. And she was third at sectionals, and she had to beat some top-ranked wrestlers to qualify for state. And when she was there, she placed fifth, medal down there. So, really great season for her. Let's give her a hand too. And the last wrestler has kind of been our poster girl for the season. She hates that I'm bragging on her right now, or I'm about to brag on her. She's one of the most humble people I know. But she wrestled, obviously, at our club through the middle school. She started on the varsity at the middle school and probably would be good enough on most teams to start on the boys' team. She came into the year already having won 2 state championships, one with the IWCOA, one with IHSA last year. And here's what she's done since last spring. If I could lay it out, and she's going to start turning red, I know that. But since last spring, she won a Fargo National Championship, which is in the freestyle, the Olympic style. So she's a national champion. She got a chance to compete with Team USA at Buenos Aires, Argentina, and silver medaled there this last early summer. And then later in the summer, she had the opportunity when the opponent ahead of her went down, or her the girl that made the world team went down. She got to sub in for her, and she placed 5th in the world in Rome this summer. And later on, beat that same girl in a flow wrestling who's #1 competition. So she has the #1 ranking in the country right now. And she won every tournament we took her to, not shocking. And she won another state championship this year, beating a girl who called her out on social media and was the #1 girl at 138. She went hunting for Sydney, and Sydney took her out. So that was pretty exciting. So it was the best finals match in the IHSA finals. She came away victorious. And maybe the most impressive thing is she was in helping with the kids club the next day. She came in and was working with her little brother who's in our kids club. There's a great picture of her out there on the internet, helping a little girl in our club that same day on her knees, kind of talking to her, building her up. She came to RMS with me in October and had a line of 50 kids out in the atrium when I told them that you better get your autograph from Sydney Perry because she might be the Olympic ladder here coming up. So, they flocked over to her, and she's just kind of, been everything we've asked her to be for us. And so super proud of her, these girls, and every girl on our team. So, just happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Hi, I'm Ryan Farwell. I'm really appreciative you guys brought us down here, and thankful that I get to acknowledge our season that we had and some of the guys that had a run there at the state tournament. We have one of them here tonight, and I'll talk about him here in a little bit. We had some scheduling conflicts with practice and stuff like that as they moved on to another season. But overall, this year, we had a great year. We finished in top 3 in almost every single tournament that we've been in, and then we had some individuals make a run down at state. 9 sectional qualifiers, and then 4 that moved on to the state tournament. All 4 of them are the ones that I'm going to be talking about here tonight, and all 4 of them were team captains for us. They have been there in a pivotal role of creating the culture in our room. They lead by example. They've committed themselves to this sport. and they do a lot of right things, and of course that's why they're captains. They are true leaders of our team. They've done some special things, and it shows in the results that they get at the end of the year. We have 2 captains that are going to be moving on. They're not here today, but those 2 are going to go down as probably some of the top 2 most successful wrestlers in Batavia wrestling history. Caden Fedoroff ended his career with 152 wins, the highest that any Batavia wrestler has had. He had the highest single season record at 49, and he's a 4-time state qualifier, 3-time state placer, was in the state finals, and a 4-time conference champ. Again, he couldn't make it here tonight. Then we had another senior moving on. That was Cale Andrews. Again, guy who came through the club and wrestled from his freshman to senior year. He ended with 140 wins overall. He will be 2nd, I believe, overall in wins. Was a 3-time state qualifier, finished in the top 8 his junior year, and then finished with a state medal as 6th place. Another one we have is returning. That will be Aiden Huck. He's of course a junior, so he's going to be a senior next year. He'll be a 2-year captain. He's now a 2-time state qualifier, and his junior year finished in the top 8. The one that was able to come today, Eno, I'm going to have you come up. This is Eno Garcia, again, junior captain of our program. Eno here had a little bit late start coming back from an injury, had some adversity at the start of his season, but he handled it like a true professional would. Again, he led as an example in our room, and he never made an excuse. He came out, he competed with the top kids in the state, immediately stepping onto the mat, even after not being able to be there with us for the start of the season. He was in the finals of almost every single tournament except really the state tournament, where he ended up placing 6th. Eno also just joined a pretty elite club in Batavia wrestling, where he recorded at the state tournament technically his 101st win, but he is now a Centurion, where he's recorded 100 wins as a Batavia wrestler. So we're very lucky to have 2 representatives that have been captains for us and that are returning next year and can continue to build on that culture. And we're really excited about our season this year and what these guys returning can do. So thank you for having us, and Eno Garcia.
Can I say something, Kat?
Of course.
So I think I might have made a comment last time the wrestlers were here, but I grew up in Iowa, and so Iowa, it's like if you hear like Indiana, everyone grows up with the basketball, and Iowa wrestles, and I wrestled for a couple years, wasn't tough enough, so I had to move to an easier sport, football. But I just want to say that, yeah, wrestling is the toughest sport that I've seen. And the mental toughness, it's competing, the discipline you have to have. I still remember going out to that mat and looking the person in the eye, and if you don't have a good day, you're going to end up on your back, and there's no one you can blame but yourself. So I want to say that I'm sure your parents are very proud of you, your coaches are proud of you, our community is proud of you, and I do want to speak to the women. I've been following you very close, and you know your legacy of what you're achieving is fantastic, and I'm sure we're all proud of your accomplishments, but I think your greatest legacy as you move on will be that next generation. I can speak to my neighbor. I have a neighbor's daughter who's 10 years old. She's in the kids club. She's been looking for an outlet, and I know she's worked with some of the girls in the front row here, and the impact it's had on her mental outlook, her physical outlook, her parents, changing her demeanor, her confidence. So someday you'll be able to come back very soon, and women's wrestling will just be like any other sport. And you're the trailblazers that are going to establish that for the next generation. So I just want to thank you for all you're doing for those next generations that are going to come behind you. So congratulations on that.
Thanks, Aaron. Next item on our agenda is public comments. Did we have public comment sign up?
We do have one.
Okay, so welcome to everybody tonight. Anybody else that wishes to address the board, please let Cindy know right now, because we're doing public comments. Just a reminder that in general, we don't answer questions or engage in dialogue during public comments. It doesn't mean we don't take your concerns or comments seriously. We really value active community participation in district endeavors, and we encourage people to engage with the district. We have a number of channels designed specifically for that. We're not involved in the day-to-day operations of the district, so we don't engage in district business individually, but if you have specific questions or you'd like a follow-up, please let us know. There's a way on the website, or you can let us know tonight. So I'm going to pass it over to Holly Deachman, who's going to explain the procedures for public comments.
Thank you, President Drummond. We have one public speaker, Bob McQuillan. Bob, would you please come to the podium? We have a 3-minute timer that will start and be displayed up on the front board. We ask that you speak to the group with civility and respect as we will address you. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, my name is Bob McQuillan, and I live in Batavia. The district's position on the April 4th referendum, if approved, would be that it is not an increase in school taxes. It has promised that debt payment will remain at $9.1 million per year. If the referendum fails, property owners will receive about a 10% decrease in the school taxes. In my case, that would be about $630 per year, quite a savings. The tax savings would take place at the same time the current bonds are retired. My question is, why is the district saying that a yes vote is not a tax increase? If a no vote leads directly to a 10% school tax decrease, doesn't it make sense that a yes vote is a hidden tax increase? I have always been taught that a higher number is an increase over a lower number. $6,300 versus $5,670 is an increase. It seems some people don't agree with that concept. Bottom line, I would like to know if each board member thinks a yes vote is a tax increase or not. Your reasoning would be also appreciated. I realize that school board members don't normally respond to public comment during their meeting, but I believe the community is very confused over this issue, and because we vote for each board member individually, it is important that each board member's reasoning is heard. Secondly, during the League of Women's Voters last week, it was revealed that from reports filed with the state of Illinois for the previous and current election, 3 companies have contributed $21,000 of $21,300 that I'm just going to call them the Yes Group, has raised. All 3 companies currently or will possibly have large contracts with the school district if the referendum passes. While legal, do you believe it is ethical for an organization with a direct benefit from a referendum passing should be able to contribute such a large percentage of a campaign committee's funding? I have other questions, but I believe Mr. Mathias plans to address those later in this meeting. Thank you. And again, I would appreciate comments from each board member, but I know it's not normal.
Next item on our agenda is our BPS partners. I'm going to invite our student ambassador.
Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hello. So we just have a little quick presentation today. First, I want to say good job to all of our winter sports for having really successful seasons and for representing Batavia so well. All right, so first of all, girls soccer, boys tennis, baseball, and softball are all underway for spring seasons. And the boys lacrosse season has started, and they've already had a few games, and hopefully they'll continue to do well.
And also a big congrats to girls track and field and boys track and field for winning Duquesne Conference. Both the varsity and JV won Duquesne Conference, and there were some new records set and some amazing accomplishments. Rock the Runway recently put an amazing show out, so I'd recommend anyone who hasn't seen it yet to go see it next year because they had some truly innovative designs and it was such an amazing show to watch.
Black Student Union and Equity Justice Community organized an incredible event commemorating Black History last month. We had amazing speakers and the students loved it. International Open Circle celebrated Persian New Year's today, and we'll be talking more about it on Wednesday for culture education. The picture below is a decoration we did on the LRC today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, I would like to invite Todd Swanson, President of the BEA, to the podium.
Good evening, members of the board. Last month, I came before you with a message of celebration. This month, I am focusing my comments on the topic of gratefulness, especially to you as members of the board. These last few years have seen our world in education turned upside down. From a global pandemic to an ever-increasing threat of a catastrophic teacher shortage in the near future, we are still here, educating our students and shaping their lives. This reality has many contributing factors. Our amazing staff of certified educators and our dedicated support personnel throughout the district are on the job each day, no matter what challenges they may be facing outside of their classroom walls, connecting with their students, pushing their limits of thinking, and striving to provide a place of safety for varying thoughts, ideas, and emotions. Another contributing factor that has kept us moving forward is you as a board. There is no secret that there have been bumps in the road that in full disclosure could have divided us and impaired our working relationship. Month after month, you have heard from me and other educators speaking on a vast array of topics. From where I started as BA president 5 years ago to where we are now, I feel that this board has made strides to move from hearing to listening, and instead of automatically accepting, to questioning. Have outcomes always been agreeable? Absolutely not. But I do get the sense that in most situations, we have not only been heard, but listened to as well. And that can be substantiated in the comments that you make as board members and the ensuing actions that you take. Case in point will be when Lisa and I both talk about our follow-up from the June 21st meeting we had together last summer. We will be providing you with a requested update that came from being able to have difficult conversations with you as a board, with SMT, and with BEA leadership around trust, collaboration, and communication. That again will come up a little later in our meeting. What I'd like to address now in relation to gratitude is your willingness to use what for some of us has been a completely new, different, or underutilized lens, and that is the lens of DEI. As a board, you've begun to ask the questions of whose voice is not being heard in your decisions. In what areas of our district are we falling short in regards to supporting all of our subgroups? What do we need to prioritize in going forward with this focus in mind? This work has been messy, unstructured, and at times seemingly unproductive. But we are at least having the conversations that show your willingness to look at all of our students and staff, and if we are falling short, asking why it is and how we plan to fix it. There's still a very long road ahead of us as a district, but at least we're on the road together. As a board, you have made that commitment to educational equity, and for that, as a BEA, we are grateful. There are some in our community that feel that this focus is distracting or leading us in a way that we shouldn't be going as a district. This leads me to another example of being grateful to you as a board, and that is that you recognize that the educators and support personnel in this district are the experts in what it takes to educate the students of Batavia. You know that even if we had the best textbooks on the market, our students would get little benefit from them if they were not in a place of social emotional stability that would enable them to begin to not only take in the information, but begin to synthesize it in a useful manner. Establishing relationships, building trust, guiding, supporting, diagnosing, and educating takes time, skill, and professional judgments that our staff makes over and over each day, day in and day out. You realize that teaching is so much more than divulging information to a class that in itself is made up of a diversity in skills, diversity in readiness to learn, diversity in traumatic experiences, and diversity in everyone's state of social emotional health. In fact, what we don't see, that which exists on the inside of our students, is as diverse as the individual faces we see looking up at us each day in our classrooms. There are also some in our community that say we need to stop worrying about how kids feel or protecting their feelings to get back to the basics because our test scores are slipping. You'd be hard-pressed to find an educator anywhere that would disagree with the statement that our kids are more than a test score picked from one moment in time. But there is truth in the fact that scores are dropping when you look at year-to-year trends. In fact, based on the data from the Illinois School Report Card, this trend could be verified. However, I think that when one looks at data, all the data needs to be looked at to help make a complete picture. Yes, scores in Batavia have dropped on IAR and SAT over the past few years, but so have they in the districts that we seem to always be comparing ourselves to, like Geneva and St. Charles. In all three districts, average scores have been going down from even before when the pandemic hit. In regards to SAT in both English and math, all three of these districts had scores decrease at the exact same amount from 2017 to 2022. English scores saw a 4% drop in all three districts, and math scores dropped 5% in Batavia and Geneva and 6% in St. Charles. For IAR, the drops in all three districts from prior to the pandemic until now range from 9% for Batavia, 16% drop in Geneva, and 18% drop in St. Charles for ELA. Similarly, drops were seen in math as well on IAR. Batavia with a 13% drop, Geneva 9, and St. Charles 7. So to say that Batavia scores have dropped is an accurate but an incomplete statement when scores are dropping at relatively the same rate in the districts we compare ourselves to. This leads itself to a more systemic conversation that impacts education as a whole, but one that certainly needs to be had. If one wants to dig even further into the whys of these drops, you don't have to look much further into the data than to the exact reasons why DEI becomes so critically important. You want our test scores to rise, then we need to look at why our most marginalized subgroups are underperforming. On the English portion of the IAR test last year, 43% of our white students in Batavia met or exceeded expectations, while at the same time, only 16% of our black students did, and 22% of our Hispanic students did. Our EL population had a meet or exceed rate of 5%, and our IAP students 12%. In order for our test scores to rise overall, we need to make sure that all students have the same opportunities to instruction and resources that meet their needs. That is educational equity and why it is so critical. SAT data mirrors IAR data. On the English test, 53% of white students in Batavia met or exceeded goals, while only 8% of our black students did and 19% of our Hispanic students did. In math on the SAT, the trends are similar. 56% of white students met or exceeded, while 8% of black students did, and 16% of Hispanic students did. Again, if we want overall changes in averages to rise as a district, the data shows plainly where our most critical needs are, and your commitment to educational equity will hopefully leave our collaborative structures to putting supports in place for those that need them, while providing opportunities to continue to enhance the instruction for those already meeting and exceeding. We know as a district that we have plenty of opportunities for growth, and much work still needs to be done. However, that should never take away from the great things that we are already doing in our district. That doesn't mean that we don't become complacent either. After tonight, there's only one more board meeting with this exact board intact. I want to make sure that you all know that the BEA is grateful for your time that you dedicate to being a board member. We are grateful for you asking questions, and we are equally grateful for thinking about how these decisions you make will impact not only those that you hear from, but from those that you don't. You respect all the voices in our community and represent all the voices in our community. In my mind, that is almost an impossible job. But I've seen you listen, contemplate, and evaluate your decisions in ways that ensure maximum impact for students, educators, and community. We may not always agree or see eye to eye, but that doesn't take away from recognizing the work that you do for the community of Batavia. And for that, we are all grateful. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for your time, and have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks, Todd. Next item on our agenda are committee updates. Erin, let's start with you.
I missed the recent equity meeting, but BIC met last Saturday. It was the last meeting of the year. Of course, it's a meeting of the minds between all of the booster groups in Batavia. Always great idea sharing and a delightful time as always, and that's all I have.
Thanks, Karen. Okay.
I'm going to ask Mr. Pierce if he could provide an update on the stipend committee, because unfortunately I was not able to make it today. If you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, we had a good, actually, we had a great meeting. It's the longest we've met. We got a lot accomplished. We're kind of coming together. It was funny, Josh Bulak from the business office attended, and he used to be on the stipend committee, and he walked in today, and he goes, wow, this is like all new people. And it's really true. It's really turned over in this last year with new members, which I think is great. We still have some of the old guard. The OG is still in effect and are still doing some good work. But what we did today is we we looked at some of the submissions that staff members have made for our for stipends. We talked about ways to navigate that because as you probably know, we don't have like an injection of new funds into our stipends at this time. And so there's some opportunities there. We also are hopeful that we'll have some new money. And so with that, we prioritize some of the stipends that have been applied for. A real asset to our team has been a couple of staff members at the high school and the middle school who are involved highly with our different programs, and they have great insight. And so overall, as Keith Osvast stated, he said, I feel like we really took a step forward tonight. And so we did a lot of good work, and we're kind of setting the stage. We're going to meet again in end of April. RJ will be sending out an invite for that probably tomorrow. And we're going to keep doing the work. I did notify all of the members of that committee that it's probably going to get us teed up properly for next school year. We'll probably need to meet probably during the month of June just to be ready for the fall so that we can kind of use all of our resources to provide the best experiences and best opportunities for our kids to be a part of something. So overall, thumbs up. It was a really good meeting.
Thanks, Steve. Greg?
I was not at the board meeting last month, so did you have anything about the construction, the capital projects committee last time?
You know what? I wasn't there either.
Oh, well, look at us. So I'll give it a quick one. This was a while ago because we only meet quarterly as a part of the capital projects committee. Quick update. There's one coming up, I think, next month. Just kind of getting prep for summer work, double checking lead times, which the architect and construction manager were on top of because that's the bane of everyone's existence in construction right now. At the time, we were looking at the revamped referendum website a little bit more to kind of understand that and how that did. But other than that, it was a quick and kind of efficient meeting. So, anything to add, Tony?
Not that I can recall.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Thanks. CAC met last week and actually had a really great presentation from all of the subject area leadership teams. They talked in depth about what their needs were, what was working, what they thought that they would want to focus on for summer work. And I believe that conversation is going to continue this week. But yeah, it was a very robust discussion, and it was really, really gratifying to see those teams come in and talk about the vertical articulation that we're trying to do within the district and ensuring that our curriculum is as up to snuff as possible. Sue?
Plaque met last week, which is nice because usually they meet right after our meeting, so I actually have something to report. They're actually starting to make some progress. They talked about, they've been working on this master list of all professional development that's needed by the faculty and staff, training, and they're trying to make it accessible for everyone. I believe that'll be through the intranet, and they're making some good progress. So they're trying to make sure everybody knows what they need, when they need it, how to get it, that type of thing. Doing good. Oh, and Beefy will meet Thursday. Scholarship Committee met Monday. We've chosen the scholarship recipients, and they will be notified after Thursday when the whole committee votes to officially
award it.
Officially accept it. So yes, we had some nice, and thank you, Todd, for attending. That was a great meeting. Quick, yep, to the point. In and out in under an hour. Great. I think we've refined it over the years, you know, we've gotten down, we've gotten our system set, so.
Awesome, thanks,
Be some
Sue.
great seniors, yep.
Aaron?
The insurance committee met on March 9th. I was able to attend virtually, and the conversation focused on just our transition to health grant and providing supports to our employees and their families so they can access the benefits that they deserve. I do have an exciting announcement to share with the board, though. As a refresher, everyone probably with this body remembers on January 24th, this body approved a one-year contract with Modern Health, which is an online health services platform that's going to be accessible. And I'm excited to say that on March 13th, that officially rolled out. And so those in the audience and the community watching online, what Modern Health is, it's an online platform where employees of the district and their families can receive one-on-one counseling. I have it actually printed out here, unlimited group support sessions, a library of guided meditation, just a wealth of resources. We know mental health is on everybody's mind. We're very proud of this program. And so we're just hoping that everybody that could use services like this takes advantage of it. And then the last thing I'll just say is I want to give a quick shout out to Kathy Enger for her service to the district. She was the district's benefits coordinator. She's now moved on to a new opportunity. I did get a chance to know her a little bit on this committee, and I can say that she served the district with this distinction. And we're sorry to see her leave, but we're happy that she's found another opportunity, and we just want to wish her well and thank her.
Aaron, can I ask a quick question real quick?
Yes.
How soon do you think you'll be able to get us any sort of data in terms of how much this new health gram is being utilized?
Tony?
Modern Health?
I don't know. We have to wait a
Modern
little
Health,
bit.
sorry, Modern Health.
I do know that their reporting statistics are robust, but I haven't seen that end of things.
I mean, it's still early yet, but that's something I think
Yeah.
that would be
In
useful.
the last week, how many people?
Yeah, until that's,
Right.
One of the
have
advantages of this,
names of people, but just, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, can you come back like in 3 months?
Right, maybe
Yeah,
summertime.
for Summertime.
Yeah, well, I can
just-
say one of the reasons why, and I don't want to speak for the committee, but one of the reasons we decided to implement this program is that the current health services being provided were not being utilized very much. And so we're hoping, and we know there's a need out there, so we're hoping that this platform is something that people
This is like an
access.
online.
This is online,
You know, you can just sit at home and.
yeah, kind of à la carte,
Yeah.
and, you know, I think everyone thinks of mental health as like sitting on a psychiatrist's couch, and this is
Yeah.
not this, and this is actually, when we did the research, most people don't like that environment, they want something a little more anonymous. So we're thinking the buffet of options here is gonna be more, something that more people will wanna access and utilize, so
Yeah.
the time will tell, though.
And I certainly wouldn't expect statistics yet. It's been out a week
Right.
or two.
Yeah.
But since you mentioned it and it's on our mind, I think it's important to bring that back up sometime, maybe summer or fall, to see how it's being utilized, because if we could grow the scope at a cost-effective
Right.
model, I think it would be very well utilized with students. You know, Todd talked a lot about our test scores, and I mean, I've said it many times, our test scores are great, but if our students are hurting, they're not going to do well on tests. So, thank you so much for bringing that up.
How is this rolled out to the staff? Like,
Well, I can tell you there was a Google Meet at 3:45 on Monday, the day it launched.
okay.
So there was a chance for everyone to get in there and
Wow.
ask questions. I mean,
Okay.
again, I don't know how many
We
people
don't
took
know how many
advantage of that,
people
but there was also videos explaining it to them. So there was a lot of resources to explain to them how to access it.
yeah, they received emails, and they received
So more than one or two?
actual mail, yeah. And so, these
Okay.
are the kinds of things that take a while to uptake.
Oh,
By
yeah.
their nature. And they don't really know what it is, but
Right.
we got, actually, there's cards that we put out. There's one actually out on the counter out here that just is a little kind of like a paper pop-up tent
Sure.
that informs people of it.
So like in the staff lunch or
Yeah,
whatever?
we're working on making
Okay.
sure that everybody knows about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? All right, Chris?
Rec did not meet, so I got nothing.
All right. Next item on our agenda is our consent agenda, which is our opportunity to approve a number of routine business items, all of which are detailed within the consent agenda. So I'm going to ask Mr. Pierce to walk us through that tonight.
Sounds great. 5.1 and 5.2 are the approval of the February 21st, 2023 meeting and closed session minutes. 5.3 is our monthly personnel report. 5.4 is the payroll and bills. 5.5 is the destruction of the closed session recording from September 21st, 2021. 5.6 is our donations. We had a sizable donation from the city of Batavia for the post-prom fund, as well as a very large donation from the Batavia Wrestling Club for wrestling match at Batavia High School. So we thank both of those organizations for that. 5.7 is the approval of the special education contract with NIA. And just to give a little more context to that, you know, I think that you could look at something like this and say, well, are we doing all this because we're short-staffed? And I think there's some truth in that. We've definitely had challenges hiring occupational therapists, but it should be known too by the board that we've contracted services with NIA for a long, long time. I've been here a decade, and we were doing it then. So this isn't anything new. It's really providing the supports and the services for some of our most challenged and needy students. And they have specialists that we may not have access to, and so that's the driver for this contract. And so you can see the most sizable costs in here are for OT and PT services. And we utilize those services a lot of days for our students because they need them. And so it's a very necessary function, and we believe that the cost, while expensive, is very much worth it for our students to support them. With that, 5.8 is our curriculum contracts. 5.9 is our annual IHSA membership renewal from BHS. 5.10 is the Fox Valley Career Center intergovernmental agreement, and then we finish up with 5.11, which is the approval of the entire consent agenda.
Awesome. Any items on that agenda for removal or clarification? All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Meitzler, second by Locke. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next item on our agenda are reports. I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Hitchens to start us out.
Great, there are 5 reports tonight, and this section of the agenda doesn't require, none of these reports require a vote. That would be the next section of the agenda. Those are 4 different items. So for the reports, the first 2 you see every month. And normally you don't have questions because they are recurring, and if you do have questions, I'd be happy to entertain those now. In the third report is administrative procedures and exhibits, and I'm going to turn that one over to Brad.
Sure. These are just some administrative procedures and exhibits related to our bullying and harassment policy out of Section 7 of your policy manual. And these are just support systems for our bullying and prevention program that we run. Really, we ask that any student who is experiencing bullying report it to any adult. That's the reporting system that we use. There's a number of different ways they can do that, but we want them to reach out to any adult within our system to report bullying, and it triggers a series of responses from the school to make sure that student is supported and can work through those issues. So, and that doesn't happen again. So these are just some support systems. We look at this data pretty closely and monitor it, especially at the 6-12 level. We take a look at this on a monthly basis and track this data to see our progress in being proactive in preventing these issues.
This looks like it just came from press.
These are press
Just
support.
straight from press, okay.
Any questions on that?
Okay.
I have some thoughts that I'd like to share. Obviously, bullying is a topic that I don't know about the rest of the board, but I hear about relatively frequently in the community from people who have their kids who are suffering from it. And it's one of those things where, as a board member, I know that we track the data, but I know that I don't believe that we've actually seen the data ourselves. And I'm wondering if it's such a hot button issue, and because literally it can mean life or death for some students, I'm wondering if we want to prioritize this enough so that we get a report and then start establishing some parameters that to know that we're making progress. So I want to throw that out there to wonder whether or not we as a board would like to receive some of that information and find out whether or not we're tracking the data in a way that we feel is best.
Chris mentioned that to me earlier today, so we talked about ways that we could do that, and a couple of ways that we already do that. The board has its annual calendar of monitoring, where you do receive discipline reports annually. And then the public also, there is a law that the public sees our bullying report, and we review policy 7180, and we're required to put that on the website. So in August, annually, we put up a report on the website that tracks, or that talks about all the number of incidences. So last year, I think it was 85 for the district, 65 students, and about 45 of those 65 students were middle schoolers. So this, like Brad said, this year, the secondary discipline, or student behavior team, we'll call it, meets regularly, meets monthly at least, to sit down and look at this data, but it is available to the public on our, the publicly facing, there's a section of our website in the bottom left-hand corner, I think it's called like required postings, public records FOIA, it's on that page, so. It is, we have a lot of monitoring, there's, probably close to 100 things that our policy requires us to monitor. And some of them are also required to be put on that FOIA page. So we'll make sure that we do a better job of communicating that when that's made public. And if you guys have any changes that you want to make to our monitoring calendar for the year, feel free to let me know.
Is that what you were thinking, Chris?
Well, I mean, I haven't looked at that report to know what information is there, so
Yeah.
I don't know if it's useful.
I guess I only thought that was for like.
Right, you
asking
guys
for
have
a
an
FOIA.
internal one, and then we are required to, on that page, you can see there's a couple dozen reports that we're required to
Yeah.
make easily available.
Oh, that's where
Well,
everybody.
We have a
it's
lot
a
of
great
them.
opportunity for us to look at that, see if it's,
Yeah.
you know,
Or the next board.
we got one more chance, Chris.
True.
So for this, the procedures and exhibits, the board doesn't vote on them. These are the ways that we implement your policy. So, but we do want to make sure that we're transparent and show everybody how we do that work.
All right, so everyone's gonna look at that, we can talk about it next month?
Yeah.
We don't need to bring it back because it doesn't require a vote.
No, not
the
that. but
monitoring part.
We're talking about.
Oh, the monitoring
looking
part.
at this.
Yeah, just looking at the, whether or not the monitoring will answer the questions, or whether we would like to
Got you.
talk about new ways for us to see if we're making progress to reduce billing.
Thank you.
Welcome. The next topic is the referendum update. We've been making this a recurring topic for, it feels like the last year, but I'm here to talk about our most recent referendum, and we'll recreate the conversations that you had in December and in January when you made the decision to put this question back on the ballot. The reason why you put this back on the ballot is because when it didn't pass, there were 24 votes that separated the yes from the no. You asked us to do surveys and focus groups and bring you back more information about what the voters were saying. And what we heard loud and clear is that our communication, no offense, Holly, our communication, people weren't aware of the referendum. We felt like we didn't leave any stones unturned, but that is not the case, because 245 people showed up and didn't even answer the question on the ballot. And there might be a variety of reasons for that, but over and over in our focus groups and on the survey, we heard people didn't understand what we were asking. They didn't feel like people were talking about it. And so you said to me, I think that we need to do, to ask this question again, but double down on our efforts and try something different when it comes to communication, because people want to understand what it means to them individually. And for example, one of the things that you asked us to change was that people were confused about their taxes. So there's a tax calculator on the referendum page of the website, and all of our communications talk about why you would vote yes and why you would vote no. These are in our mailers and all through it, and you would vote no because your taxes would go down, because we did hear that people didn't understand the implications. So if you vote no, your taxes will go down, and you can visit our website to look at our tax calculator to verify your specific situation. We also asked every school to put together a referendum information team among their staff, because staff also, they are a source of information from a lot of our community members. And some of our staff also felt that they didn't have the information. And Tony and I think that we're great at presenting, but people
I
want.
like to think so.
Yeah, we think we're pretty great. But in all seriousness, people want to hear information from a trusted source, and for many people, that's their neighbor or their teacher. And so we wanted to make sure the teachers had the correct information, not telling people how to vote, just making sure you understand the question, because the question does read, it is quite complicated, it is long, and people say it's a bad question, but that's the way that we need to ask it, because we are borrowing up to $140 million, and we are guaranteeing that the bond and interest payment will remain level. It will not increase. That payment that we make to pay off our bonds will remain steady at 9.1 million. And so we revamped our communications. If you go to that website, we've been getting a lot of really positive feedback from a lot of people, supporters and people that aren't supporters, but they are saying that they're able to find the information that they're looking for. There's a one-page document for every school about the implications for that school. There are one-page stories. We wrote, right now, I think there's about 9 stories on the website that are one-pagers of the frequently discussed topics in the community, and people have found those helpful. So helpful that in the past, when we presented to you as part of our debrief of the November referendum, we talked about how 200 people visited our website, and we guessed that Holly and Tony were about 100 of those people. And now we're up to 2,000 clicks in the last 2 weeks. So we have people's attention. We've had information booths, which we didn't do last time, so just to make sure our parents have a place where they can easily ask questions. Dominic has a information poster that's been in the lobby of GFAC the past couple weeks. We've been at bingo nights. We have posters in the lobby here, just making sure people know where they can ask questions. And we do have a lot of people reaching out, asking questions. And finally, we had that forum last week, and that was really well attended, and I appreciate the League of Women Voters helping to inform our public and give multiple perspectives about what's on the agenda. And finally, my part of that, I'll turn it over to Tony, but our next set of communications you're going to hear are about voting, and that no matter what your opinion is, that we want everyone to get out and answer that question on the ballot. So right now you could do that at the Batavia City Council. There's lots of construction, but I'm sure you'll find a way once you get there. It's a little hard to navigate into that building these days, but they are open 9 to 3, I believe, every day this week, and then Monday through Thursday next week. And then you can also go to Kane County. They even have some weekend hours that you can go and vote. And then your normal polling places on April 4th are just a few of the options available to you. Tony, I know you've gotten a couple questions from board members that you were going to work into this presentation as well.
Yeah, to do our best, we'd be happy to answer questions that anybody has. It doesn't matter what your perspectives are. We just want to make sure that people have an understanding of the facts so that they can make an informed decision. Some questions that we get, I've got 3 of them here that I'll run through and do my best to answer, and if you have others, certainly, that you come across, that we can discuss them here tonight too. If bonds are going to be issued over a period of up to 5 years, as they are, how can the board know what the rates would be at the time of issuance? And so, to restate that in another way, a lot of people hear that we would issue up to $140 million in bonds, and people assume that we would do it all at once. And we wouldn't do that. There's a number of reasons why. The primary one is that you have to basically spend the money when you issue those bonds within 18 months, and that wouldn't be possible for us to do so, as these are major construction projects. And so we expect to issue them probably in what are called tranches or batches, and we our tentative plan is that there would be 4 of these tranches that we would issue bonds in over a period of 5 years. And after the 5 years, the authority to issue those bonds expire. Now, those bonds would be subject to the market rates at the time of issuance. And so right now, market rates are roughly around, you could expect like 4%, which is a heck of a lot higher than what we were talking about a year ago, unfortunately. But if you look back to 2007, when we issued bonds to do the renovations primarily at the high school, but there was a number of renovations that occurred district-wide, the average interest rate was about 5.25%. So if we were to issue these bonds today, we'd actually be paying less than what we would paid, I guess it was like 18 years ago when we issued these bonds prior, or not quite, 16 years ago. And as you know, and as I know Sue knows, when market rates came down, we were able to call some of those bonds and refund them at rates that were much lower than when they were originally issued. And so by spreading this out over time, ultimately, we don't know what the rates are going to be, but on average, we kind of hedge our risk over time. And so if rates are too high, we might issue fewer bonds. If rates are low, we might issue more bonds, depending on how all these pieces fit together. So we don't know, but we have some tools in our toolbox to address the issues as best we can. The next question is, how would you come up with estimates of cost if you can't tell us exactly what will be done at each school? And the reason why we can't tell folks exactly what will be done at each school is because of the way that we set this up on the front end. When we looked at, we did the community engagement sessions, we looked at what was option A, option B, and option C. Option A was, let the taxes go down and we wouldn't issue new bonds. We'd have to come up with money out of our operating funds to make this work happen. And as we all know, we know the pressures on our operating funds and all the other things that we attempt to do. Option B was fill in the expiring bonds and carry those taxes forward. And option C was increase taxes. And we heard resoundingly from the folks that participated in those sessions, go with option B. But what option B meant was that we were going to hold that levy for bond and interest level at 9.1 million, and we're going to back in the projects to that amount. It's like walking into a car dealership and saying, I'm going to buy a car, I don't know which one, but I'm only going to pay $500 a month. And so depending on what the interest rate is on the loan that you get, what your credit rating is, and in this case, what construction inflation is, really determines the scope of work that is going to happen. That's the challenge. And we don't know until we design it and we bid it. And so in some cases, we might have some choices in terms of what we bid and what we do. We might say, all right, well, to do the restroom renovations at J.B. Nelson School is going to cost a lot more than what we had expected. And so we're going to put our efforts into ADA door access. Maybe we can't do all the ADA door access, but maybe we do more of it in light of what the restroom improvements would cost. Those are the kinds of decisions that I expect that we would otherwise face when we get there. So we're talking about the needs in general and the budgets, and there's going to have to be some room in there once we get to the other end. Because again, there's a lot of unknowns between here and there, but that is by design, the way we set up this referendum. We're telling taxpayers, we're locking in the payment, and we're leaving the variable to be the scope of the projects within reason. Lastly, related to what areas will be cut from the plan if we can't get it all done, and that's a hard question to answer because of the nature of what I just described. And so hopefully all goes well and interest rates go down and some of the inflation pressures that we're facing in the economy bring it down the way that we need it to. Maybe over the period of 5 years where we're issuing those bonds, and which is more likely the case, things are going to kind of wobble as we go through, and we're going to have to make decisions as best we can. But what we can say to the taxpayers is this plan, this master plan that we've developed, is designed to save taxpayer dollars to the extent practical and directing as much money as possible toward our educational programs and minimizing those construction costs so that we can get the best bang for our buck. And that's what we've tried to accomplish. So that's the plan as it stands. At the end of the day, the bond and interest tax levy, if the referendum passes, will remain at $9.1 million. Of course, taxes would go down otherwise. What other questions might I answer?
Any other questions?
I just want to say, I appreciate the challenge that people are having understanding the concept, because a lot of times you go and I want a house, and how much does that house cost? Right? You know what you're buying, and you can go look for a house that matches, you know, your ability to understand what you can get. But the reality is, and we see it even, and I'm an architect and I work in this market, the challenges of the variables that are out there right now make it difficult to understand how much you can buy and what you can buy. And so the ability to say, I have this amount of money, I wish sometimes my clients would tell me, I've got this amount of money, help me understand what the best I can do with that money is. We spent significant amount of time, effort, and to a certain extent money on trying to understand an educational master plan from the people that we worked with on it, and I believe they did a good job. The thing that does is that creates a series of priorities and things that we need to focus on first, which is the big thing, because you couldn't do the way that we're working now without having an understanding of the priorities of what we have to accomplish. Because there's not a, we know, since we're not doing everything, we're at the have to accomplish, not the want to accomplish. And that have to accomplish is gonna take some ways of that team and that group and the staff and everybody else to be creative and try to figure out how to be flexible with the dollars and flexible with the spaces so we can accomplish 2 goals with $1. So.
That's well said, thank you. And to add on to that analogy is, some people are asking us, I'm gonna buy a house in 5 years, tell me what the mortgage rate's gonna be. It's like, I don't, you know, that's the real challenge that we face.
Yeah.
Or how much is my money gonna be worth in 5 years at the same time?
Yeah, and it just right now, things are, I mean, 6 months, 2 years ago or a year ago, wood was through the roof. It's not so much anymore. Steel was through the roof, not so much anymore, but you're dealing with weird lead times on electrical equipment that you just can't understand for stuff. So that's why they have this plan, because they actually need to look at those things, understand what kind of projects we can accomplish in the 5 years. Because the lead time on stupid things like card swipes on doors are 40 weeks right now. 40 weeks. Almost a year.
Good math.
Yeah, I said almost. So.
All right, any other questions on the referendum?
I do want to say, I want to compliment Holly on the redesign of our website and the reorganization, the simplicity of it. I can say personally, speaking from my experience, in the last 2 months, I've had much higher engagement with people in the community asking me where they can access the information. And the feedback I've gotten is for a complex amount of information, it's easy to understand and much easier to find than we had before. So I just want to thank you for that.
Holly, I think the website gets people talking, no matter which side you're on. That was pretty prevalent, I think, at the BIC meeting this weekend, some of the conversations around the website and where you can find information, and specifically the videos came up. So, thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the thing I like about the videos a lot is it starts to take the what am I getting for it out of the equation. Which is where things fall apart for people to be able to decide to spend the money. If I'm not getting something out of it, then it is. Well, I don't pay taxes so that my kid necessarily goes to school. I pay taxes so all the kids get chances to go to school. And so while you may appreciate the way taxes get spent and not, that's a different part of the equation, but people can then understand the breadth of the dollars will be spent that we can to affect the most good.
Good? All right, next item is us having discussion, coming to a consensus about how we're going to address our next Board of Education meeting.
April 4th election, did I mention that already? So there's also a school board election on April 4th, and your board policy says during March, you decide what date you're gonna seat the new board. So it's not a let's wait and see who wins, it's let's pick the date now, and that's the way your policy is written. And so, we've done it different ways in the past since I've been here. We've picked a date after the April meeting. We do have to wait, we have up until 40 days after the election to seat the new board. That is a change. It used to be 25 days. And so we need to pick a date that is no later than 40 days after the April 4th election to seat the new board. I put down, one option that I wrote down, you could have both on the same night. That's how we were over at Grace McWayne, and Erin sat off to the side while we had our meeting, and then she was called up. And then this last time, I think you guys did the same thing, right?
Yeah. we've
But
always done
times before, we separated those, so I thought, I put an option on here where we would take advantage of that 40 days, give the new board members a little extra time to onboard, but this decision is yours, we just need to make it tonight.
And there's 4 of you that it will directly impact, so I think your voices are probably the most important to be heard.
So our next meeting is April 25th,
You're all coming April 25th, no matter what.
no matter what.
It's a question of whether or not,
Are we also having that second meeting that night to bring on the new people? Or are we gonna put that on a different evening?
I am previously engaged for May 9th, so I vote to have it all done in one evening.
fair?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think I'd rather have it at the end of the board meeting too.
You good with that?
I don't have an opinion one way or the other, so.
Okay. That was easy.
And then the other, at that organizational meeting, you will, those of you who are on the board will approve your dates, your regular meeting dates for the following year. That's something you do every year, and this has to happen at this organizational meeting. And so I just have the draft here. Cindy put these together. She just rolled over this year's dates and did the corresponding dates next year. November's always a challenge because we always have our meetings on or after the 19th of the month so that our business office has time to prepare their monthly reports and the payroll. And November is a little tight squeeze for them, but they did verify that they can make that happen for that month. And then,
That's a weird week, that's a weird.
yeah, that is.
Yeah, because otherwise it's.
You could do it
We could
the
do it on
last
the
day of the
21st.
school year, yeah. Or of before the Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving
break. You can
break,
do
yeah.
that Tuesday night if you wanted.
Would we not be able to do it on the 28th?
We could, but,
That would be really close to the next one.
yeah, I would just have to talk to the, business office about how that would impact payroll and their approval
Yeah.
of their bills that they have to.
One way or another, we can make it work. I think their preference was for November 14th, but you're picking one that's too close to the next in either case.
Yeah.
True.
Oh,
Yeah, so you guys can have that discussion at that organizational meeting. We're flexible either way on that November date, sounds like.
All right, the next item on our agenda is our items for action tonight. The first item is a recommendation for cameras. I'm going to invite Dominic Gutierrez to come and talk to us about those.
Good evening. Thank you for your time tonight. If I'm too brief, by all means, ask me more detailed questions, but I want to respect your time at the same time. Holly, jump into the next slide right away for us here. This is the what. It is 5 Panasonic pan tilt zoom cameras with robotic arms. 3 of those would be installed in video production and 2 would be installed at the Fine Arts Center. 2 Panasonic PTZ camera controllers would be installed at video productions as well. Those could control either independently the studio cameras, or they could control the BFAC cameras at the same time, and then students could do live remotes from the stage into the live world that we exist in now. Head on to the next slide for me here. So, why? We've been tracking this for 2 years' time, and the cameras that we originally purchased, we purchased as the pandemic was happening, and we purchased them to get us through the pandemic so that our students could be able to perform, be seen, share their art. In doing so, we did the most cost-effective that we could at that time with less regard for quality. And under the expectation that it would all be over. And next slide, please. It's not. So you'll see here the amount of people that view performances by BFAC in person is the blue, and the red and the yellow is the amount of people who are viewing performances, whether live at home or on demand at home. This is just data from December 1st through March 22nd. Next slide, please. In the last 30 days, 12,175 minutes have been watched at home. In the last 24 hours, 300. not quite 24 hours, because I pulled that earlier today, so people probably have watched since then. Next slide for me, please. So more of the why. We've gotten feedback, basically that feedback from the people who have been paying for this system, and we've been selling DVDs, and renters rent it out when they rent our system, and we've had people pay to watch some things online. The feedback is that there should be a better quality for that which we are charging. So in an effort to retain that revenue into the future, we would like to improve the cameras. This would allow future rentals and future Blu-ray purchases to, in essence, fund the purchase of these cameras for the future. So next slide, please. We did engage in testing. The testing was threefold. I skipped ahead too soon, but that's okay. We tested based on the quality, we tested based on the ease of use, and we tested based on the cost. And we tested 3 different cameras in the month of December. We did that for 2 rentals and 1 district event. We had both staff and students operating the equipment to see the varying levels of ease of use based on whether they were students or had some training to make sure both could do that. Now we can go to the next slide, and we'll talk about teaching. And just go to the next one, too, while you're at it. Industry equipment is what's important for our students to learn on, and this is the type of equipment they're going to engage with when they are entering college or when they're going into the world to do this type of work in these fields. The next one I like to talk about is the family access, because for those online performances, for students who are in elementary, whatever grade they're in, all the way through high school, when they have family that is watching their educational process and they are seeing these performances online, you have more engaged total families that are celebrating the students who are singing in a music concert. And they're talking about that with them when they're at holidays together. And we're seeing a wider net of how families are engaging with those students. From Mexico to US to Canada and even Germany is where people are watching these students from. Whether you're a parent who is traveling or you're a grandparent who lives somewhere else, you're able to be part of those students' education. And that is highly crucial. And then the increased student access. Currently, our location that we can do this from is the BFAC booth. If you've ever been in there, it's really small. We'll just say it's small. It's not intended to have a classroom worth of human beings in it. And so our goal is for more and more of these events to be live streamed by the students who are taking these classes. 2 problems with that currently are, 1, they don't have this same kind of equipment over at Video Productions to learn on. And the second one is the space. You can put the 20 students in the control room over there, but not within our studio. So this would allow these 2 systems to operate either independently or in unison as one system. Next slide there. So this is for the students, and it would help to coordinate our equipment across the buildings. It's uniform. Go to the next slide for me. And the renters. This would address their feedback from those clients who are actually funding this. And we have more than paid for our initial investment in the original purchase. And it's now time to say, okay, you've been paying for it, and you say that you want a better quality. Let's give you a better quality. And then our students can also have that benefit. Next slide, Holly. So questions. Is it anticipated? Yes. Every year, BFAC identifies one of our production elements that needs to remain viable, both to our students and to our community, and we pick that as a project that we want to work on. This year it's video. Next slide. So does that mean it's in the budget? Yes, it does. All the funds for this are in our current allocated budget for the year. It just reaches that dollar amount where we need you guys to do the final step. That's all I have. I hope I was brief enough but detailed enough. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, or none at all.
I love presentations from the BFAC.
Based on past revenue, how long will it take to pay for these cameras?
Based on the last bit of revenue, not counting any kind of potential price increases, et cetera, we'd be between 2 and 3 years.
And they'll last longer than that?
They could last longer than that, yes. I mean, everything's a computer nowadays. I don't want to say, yes, it's going to last longer, and then in 4.5 years, I'm right back here. But everything's a computer nowadays, so I would be very comfortable to say that they will last to be paid for.
Dominic, how long have you been with us?
11, 12 years now.
In that time, you have come to us with a number of things. And in my history of 12 years on the board, never once have you led us astray. Your creativity is matched by your ability to actually do a budget, which is really impressive for a man in your position. Which is why I have a great deal of comfort believing that these numbers that you've brought us are well-researched. I think you've done a really great job. I would say the most valuable thing that you've done for us is you have balanced these great opportunities for the community while also maximizing opportunities for student learning. And I think that is the most valuable thing that the BFAC brings to us.
Thank you.
I agree, Kathy. I love the opportunity for the students.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. That's when Aaron called me today with some questions. I'm like, Dominic's not going to steer us wrong. He's got this. Great opportunity.
Any other questions,
I really
concerns?
appreciate the fact it's already in the budget.
Yep.
Thank you for thinking ahead.
Anytime.
Tony, our CFO, everything makes sense to you financially?
I'm assuming, Tony, you would not have put this on our agenda.
It's
had
just
it
a
not.
Tony Danza moment,
It is, yeah.
right?
But I do appreciate
He knows
Dominic's
what I'm-
ability.
Who's the boss?
Yeah.
He had to come to us
right,
to ask.
anyone
I,
else?
I'll say that I'll be honest, when I first saw this, I was, I had a lot of questions, which have all been answered. So again, like whenever I see anything like this, the first 2 questions I ask, is this anticipated, it's in budget, which Dominic had so nicely put in his presentation. And then the third thing is, anything that's gonna increase access, for our community. And I can say personally, like professionally, I give presentations, and it's assumed now that there will be an online component where people that are off-site will be able to view what's going on. So it is a reality that's never going to go away. And so now that I have a better understanding, yeah, I'm in support of this, and I just want to thank you for that presentation.
Thank you.
Craig had something.
2 things. As a person who has paid for a couple of DVDs and whatever else, I appreciate the attempt at increasing the quality because it is a little lacking, but that's fine because I knew what I was buying and I knew what I was getting. So I appreciate that we're kind of bringing up the level of that. I also wanted to say that I do appreciate because there's some sort of story about BFAC out in the world that I read every once in a while about how it, is not educationally impacting kids, how many kids ever get to use it, blah, 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 because they see all these other things that are happening there. But at its core, it's for the students, and I appreciate your presentation, bringing that back to the educational impact of the students, which you alluded to, and it's not just that. But also, I don't want to understate, as a person whose parents live in Colorado, that use this as a mechanism of staying involved in my kid's life.
I
We'll
love
call him
that
up the next
aspect.
day and talk to him on the weekend about what he saw and what they did and how well they sounded and everything else. That's impactful, not only because they're away, but impactful to my son who plays still currently there. And is one thing I will probably miss when he goes off to college, because I'm not sure I'll have that same advantage that my grandparents and my parents have here. So, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? All right, then I would entertain a motion to purchase 5 cameras and 2 robotic camera control stations from B&H Inc. for a total sum of $51,491.43.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Meitzler, second by Kilberg. All in favor?
I-
Any opposed? All right, thank you so much, Dominic.
I would just add one thing. He's been in the district a lot longer than.
Well, he was a student.
Yeah.
We'll hold on one second for Chris.
Chris had to step out for a second. Yeah.
Okay. Next item will be laptops and desktops. Oh, I'm assuming Chris read the book, so we'll let Dave do his presentation, and then if Chris has questions, he can catch up when he comes back in.
It's hard to follow that.
Right?
All right,
Pretty standard.
I'm actually here, and I might piggyback off of you actually, because I had an idea. So basically, I'm here for our 3-year plan cycle that we have for every computer for our staff and student devices for the computer lab areas at the high school this round. Basically, I have a 3-year cycle for every, I'll call it groups of buildings. So the elementaries go, the RMS building goes, and then the high school goes, and then I start all over again. 3-year cycle seems to be the best just due to hardware age, requirements that we've seen for classrooms increasing and other various types of dynamic changes we've seen, one being stuff like you just talked about. We have a lot of cool stuff, so the hardware requirements have never gone down, we've always gone up. I'm at the point where at the high school, we're at 200 laptops and about 150 desktops, so you've got computer labs such as the photo lab, the graphics lab, the video lab. We're doing video processing with the classrooms as well. We are actually increasing that footprint because that class has actually seen an increase. We used to have 15 in that lab, we're bumping it up to 30. So this stuff's taken off massively, which as a hobby, I love this stuff too as well. So if you guys have questions, this is basically refreshing them for the next 3-year cycle. I have also added accidental damage to the laptops. We've had some weird stuff happen over these past years I've been here, between laptops falling on the floor, someone dumping a cup of water on the laptop, staff or student, doesn't matter. But a lot of times when that happens, our previous setup, you could not fix it. It was more, you gotta buy a new one, just with how HP does their warranty. So what I've done is actually move these devices into the same exact plans we have for our Chromebooks. And the price point of it, the prices of course have gone up, and I was doing kind of like some math with what we've done previously. But as the plan worked out, we actually got a better deal adding the warranty than we'd had without it. So for me, it worked out very well. And now when someone breaks it, you're not waiting for a brand new one. You just send it in and you'll get a loaner until it comes back. So turnaround's gonna be a lot better as well.
Awesome.
You guys have any questions or?
All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve the purchase of 200 laptops and 150 desktops from ITS Savvy in the total amount of $435,875.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Meitzler, second by Locke. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next item on our agenda is a resolution for the honorable dismissal of teachers. I'm going to hand that over, I'm assuming to Steve, but it doesn't say.
Yes.
Okay.
This is something that we bring to you every March across the state of Illinois. Illinois School Code requires honorable dismissals to happen 45 days before the end of the school year. So across the state of Illinois, March board meetings, these resolutions are usually happening. It's a sad day because every name on that list is appreciated. When we hired them, what you see in front of you, those people who were hired were covering like a leave of absence for a year, a part-time position, maybe a mid-year hire. There's multiple mid-year hires in there of people who have stepped into classrooms when we really needed them and have done a great job. And so all these people are really, really appreciated because they've known they're coming in for like a year or a half a year and doing the job, and they've done it well. And we appreciate every person and name on that list. Having said that, there's a lot of people on that list too that, and by the way, the reason that we let go of the people who are covering your leave of absences or a temporary contract or part-time people is so that we can make sure that we make the right decisions for our staffing plan and don't overstaff and can kind of assess what the needs are and then make the right decisions. And so having said that, again, some of these people will be hiring back because they've done a great job for us, and we will have openings for them. For the people who have covered part-time positions, if we have part-time positions for them, which we'll determine probably in the next few months, we'd love to have them back. And so that's why it's termed honorable dismissal. They've done a great job for us, and we appreciate them. And for many of them, we're hopeful that we will have a position and we can bring them back because they've done a great job. So you'll probably see some of these names in our board report next month as new hires. And I'm hopeful that those folks get the opportunity to solidify themselves and remain with our staff for years to come. So that's the report on that. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions on that? It's pretty straightforward. All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Meitzler, second by Meadows. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, last item for action is our district collaboration. And hand that over to Dr. Hitchens and Mr. Swanson.
Going to the podium.
Wow, I don't think you've ever been to the podium the entire time.
They're collaborating at the podium.
Okay. All right, so Lisa and I are both here to kind of give you as a board an update about some things that we started last summer. So our first question that we are answering for you is, why are we doing this presentation? And just a little background knowledge, just so everybody is familiar with how we got here. The BEA leadership met with SMT and the board last June 21st at a workshop to engage in problem solving around systems of collaboration and climate in the district. This constitutes the update that you as a board asked for about our ongoing process and how that has been going throughout that time since last June. So number two, why are we presenting this update? As you know, we're going to have a leadership turnover in our superintendent on July 1st. And so this was a priority that we review our collaborative systems, so everybody kind of is on the same understanding of what the mission is for each of our collaborative structures when Tom Kim takes over in July. The third reason why we're presenting this update to you is just to ensure our systems are focused on results. And we've had previous committees come to you and give you updates about what their work has been throughout the year so far. And those results we want the results to be driving where we're going in the future. So that's the third reason why. And then the fourth reason why we're presenting this update to you is that it's like our priority for this whole overarching umbrella that we were talking about. We are beginning to build back trust. We want to ensure that true collaboration is happening in the district and improved communication, because those are the three things that really came out of that last June meeting that we really needed to work on as a team together, and that is trust, communication, and collaboration. So that's why we're making a presentation to you today. And I'll turn over to Lisa.
Sure. The next question is, why do we even care? So what are the benefits of collaboration, and why did we care so much that it is core in our strategic plan? It's one of our 3 core strategies. Because I could tell you, it's probably some people, I know when I was hired here in 1994, we weren't talking about teams of teachers sitting down weekly looking at data and making lives better for all of our students. It was, I was hired, I'm in this classroom, and I'm going to go about and shut the door and do what I want to do. And times have changed, I'll tell you that right now. The benefits of collaboration, the reason that we really value this is because if I shut my door and come up with a decision on my own, it's not the best decision. We know that the best decisions are made when there's diversity of thought in the room, and that we actually build on each other's ideas and we come up with the best, most creative, innovative solutions when we work together. Nobody likes to be left in the dark, and so I know that when we collaborate, we are committed to communicating out what we're talking about, and just having people in the room be part of that decision-making helps to improve communication and helps us to share the information throughout the organization. Hopefully that leads to improved morale and improved motivation when you feel like you're part of something big. And we're more productive and efficient with our time when we're able to divvy up tasks and do these things together. And then, just in case we forgot, in our strategic plan, we commit to collaboration and we commit to sharing decision-making. We practice interest-based problem solving. We engage in professional learning communities. We commit to developing partnerships that increase opportunities for students and increase community pride. And we commit to engaging in active, open communication within an environment where it's safe to express differences, share successes, and learn from our mistakes. So that's part of your strategic plan. I'm going to come back to the strategic plan in a little bit here. But the next question that I want to answer is, what does it look like at BPS 101? What does collaboration look like? So like Todd said, when the new superintendent shows up and new board members, we want to be able to say, here's all of our collaborative teams that exist, here's their purpose, and we made it a goal to make sure that all of the committees knew what their role was, what their purpose was, so when the new people walked in, they'd be able to say, tell me what you do, and it goes back to that man on the moon. Everybody should know that what their job is and how it impacts students. And so I did put together, like, this is a work in progress, but I do have just the list of all of our building-based collaborative teams and district-wide teams. And these aren't even all of the teams that function in our organization. And I didn't hand this out to you on purpose because, like any good teacher, I know if I hand it out, you'd be reading it and not listening to our stellar presentation right now. Sue is looking at it. She grabbed it off the seat. But it is there is a lot to say. This little 2-pager is just the tip of the iceberg. These are very complex structures and with multiple functions and ways that they go about their business. But this is just the starting point to show that it all starts with that collaborative team that I just briefly mentioned about when our students learn when our teachers sit down and look at the data and figure out how we can get better. So we set aside time for our teachers to do that, and that's called the collaborative team. A lot of us call it the PLC team. And those meet weekly or at least a few times a month throughout the district where these teams are sitting down looking at student data. And that's way different than when I started here in 1994. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to name names, but one of the teachers that I worked with, this was just different in 1994, didn't let any of us look at the tests that she gave the students, and we were teaching the same class because it was proprietary information. But think about what was missing, like that collaboration where we could have made it better, we could have shared in the workload, and we could have had consistent data to look at our students so we can have common understanding of how our students are performing and help them get better. So that is just a brief overview of collaboration in our districts, and then I'm going to turn it
All
back to
right,
Todd.
my turn again. So just like Lisa was saying with her chart with the different groups, all of this is still a work in progress, and I don't want any of you to think that we have reached the finish line, because we haven't. We have a lot of ways to go together, but at least, like I said when I made my comments earlier, we're on the right road together. So I just wanted to make that clear. But one of the questions that I know you as a board has that we should be answering for you is like, what have we been doing to work on those 3 targeted areas for building back trust and collaboration and communication? So there's 5 things that I'd like to highlight with you. And the first thing is really that June 21st meeting. That was the first step in this whole process. It was actually a starting point to actually identify what the problems are, to have real conversations, those tough conversations about where are we at together as a district? What do we need to work on? What do we need to focus on and move? So that initial like owning and awareness of that of the things that we needed to work on, that was step 1 in what we've been doing. Step 2, as you guys know and you've directed us to, we've been having ongoing meetings with BEA leadership and SMT. Every 4 to 6 weeks we've been processing through, we've been talking about things. One of the things we've been working on most recently is the climate survey that we're going to be talking about a little bit in the future. So that would be like the second thing that we've been working on this year to getting back under the umbrella of the 3 things for trust, climate, and collaboration and communication. The third thing is like our committee work, and Lisa said in her document, you know, it's identifying purposes, identifying goals, so everybody's clear on their roles. This is the one that's really still our biggest work in process. We have a lot of committees that function at varying different levels, and we want to make sure that we are providing the supports for all those committees to do the best job that they can do. So our committee structure, our committee works are still really big goals as works in progress, but at least we have a vision of where we want to go with them. So some of the things under committees that Lisa and I kind of brainstormed together is that we want to build trust amongst the team members that are on those committees by establishing norms, by talking about what our goals and expectations are and the roles and responsibilities on those committees. Those are things that each committee is tackling piece by piece, little by little, but eventually we're going to get to a point where that becomes a way of business on those committees. Something else that we talked about too that's really important on the committees that wasn't really happening at the same level in all committees is just open and effective communication on those teams, which gets back to that communication piece of the umbrella that we were talking about earlier. Transparency and shared messaging from those teams, and most importantly, equal voice on those teams between administration and the teachers that are on those committees. In the past, some teachers will be like, afraid to speak up because they're like, well, this is my boss or this is an administrator in the district. And we've made it very clear this year through, you know, the work that we've done together through BEA when we've had our own meetings. you have an equal voice to every other person on that committee, whether an administrator or a fellow teacher. Everybody's voice should be heard, everybody's voice should be valued, and you're working as a team together. So I think that is really one of the ones we made a lot of growth on this year, is just to make sure everybody's voice has an equal footing on the committee. And then, as Lisa said, too, just fostering that culture of collaboration and teamwork through shared leadership and our PLCs, but also this year we had a co-chair that was a BEA member on CAC, along with an administrative chair, and I believe there's also a co-chair for PLAC as well this year. So those are two things that we're trying to establish a role of shared leadership and shared decision-making on those committees. So as far as committees, you know, like I said, we're not at the finish line yet, but at least we're heading in a better direction than where we were before we had that June 21st meeting. So that was the third thing we've been working on this year. The fourth thing is our negotiations. And even though we're still actively negotiating and can't really divulge a lot of concrete information about what's happening with collaboration during negotiations, but I can just kind of say that the topic is certainly something that's on the discussion table for negotiations. And that's about all I can say about that for right now until we actually have a finalized contract. But we're taking some of the conversations that we've been having all year together, and as a team, both administration and BEA, through our contract negotiations, trying to see how we can get some teeth into our contract for that as well. And then the fifth way that we've been kind of monitoring this year is just with this climate survey. And we've been talking about the climate survey for a while. And I know some of the board members had questions about, you know, why this climate survey, what's the process been? So I kind of jotted some things down about the process for this climate survey. It's been 100% collaborative between SMT and BEA leadership. So I just want to make sure that that's clearly known. It hasn't been, SMT has said, oh, here's a survey that we used before, so we're going to use this one. This has been completely 100% a joint venture between both of us as teams. We've met together as a joint team, BEA and SMT, with four different survey vendors. So we actually, you know, kind of brainstormed, and we leaned on administration for this. So as teachers, we don't know too many survey vendors, but ones that they had used and other districts that have used, and we actually had them come and we did some virtual meets with them. We met online with 3 of the survey vendors, and we found out that those 3 really weren't quite meeting all the needs that we were looking for in a survey. Basically, where their results were focused on were more at building level. And we were able to get building data to some extent from our 5 Essential survey, and the surveys from these first 3 vendors that we looked at were only going to kind of, and it's okay to have cross-referencing of data, but it wasn't going to give us what our biggest function was. It was more of a macro level of a district sort of survey results and data at a survey level. From a district level. And so that's why we came to a 4th different vendor, and that vendor was called Hanover. And when we interviewed with them, they said that they would have some building level things, but as well, we would be able to look at some more district-wide survey questions that might get to some of the things that we were talking about with those issues of trust, collaboration, and communication that we were targeting as our areas of improvement. And so for that main reason, along with the fact that Tom Kim in his current district in Niles right now, they use Hanover as their survey tool. And so that information, he's going to be able to see that information, know what the required follow-up is going to be from Hanover, how they take that information and then create targets for us to work on together. It's going to be something that's very familiar for him. Plus, it's going to give him the most recent up-to-date information about the district that he's going to be stepping into on July 1st. So I know one of the questions that someone on the board had is like, why are we doing this now? Is this the best time to do this right now? And we really feel together with both sides from BEA and SMT, this is the best time to do this right now because we're going to be able to provide Tom with the most up-to-date information as far as what the climate in the survey looks like as he's coming into the district. So those are some of the things that, you know, we were trying to anticipate about why we were looking at Hanover. I'm going to check back my notes here. Somebody asked about, well, why aren't we doing like our own survey, right? And so the biggest answer to come back to that one is that knowing that trust is one of the key issues that we targeted back in our June 21st meeting, it was very apparent we needed some third-party outside source to come in and not only administer the survey, gather the survey data, disseminate the survey data, and kind of help us come up with a plan moving forward that was totally not a BEA survey. It wasn't a BPS survey. This is a total outside third-party, very objective group that would come in and provide that information. So that's why we were really looking at outside sources instead of coming up with our own sort of survey. So that answers that question, hopefully. And as far as the timeline for the survey, what we're looking at now, of course, depending on approval for Hanover, is that there would be representatives from Hanover that would meet with BEA and SMT. We would go over sort of like what their set survey questions are. But the great thing is that we can curtail that survey if we want to get more specific information. Or if we want to not ask this question, but ask this one, or change this so it's reworded this way. And that was, again, one of the biggest points that we were really, really excited about, especially when it came to that district piece of gathering that information, is we can kind of curtail some of those questions to hopefully make light of what it is we're trying to solve as far as trust and collaboration and communication. So that adaptability of their survey was happening in the first part of April, where we would meet together and kind of craft the survey. The survey would hopefully roll out by the end of April. That way the data would come in right before the end of the year, where we'd be able to kind of hand that information off to Tom, and then from there, take that information and look at it for next steps once Tom takes over in July, and then roll that out to the district. However Tom and the new SMT feels it's going to be best to roll forward when we continue to meet with them with BEA after that. So hopefully that answers a lot of your questions. And I know Lisa's got one more part that she's going to talk about.
The last, just the conclusion I would say is that with the leadership changes, definitely a strategic plan would be the next step that any district would embark on at this juncture. I think that we've done reboots of our strategic plan, but the time is probably right to redo the whole thing, make sure that we have clarity in the plan, because it should be the thing that we're pointing back to that says, this is what we value as a district, these are our priorities, and these are the measures that we're going to use to determine if we're successful or not. And you know that there's often competing interests, or we're looking at different sets of data, and I think the strategic planning process is pretty comprehensive. It's not just one survey, but the survey would definitely feed into this strategic plan comprehensive review that you would do. And they would do a very thorough needs assessment. They would look at all of our systems and all of the data that exists, and you would be embarking on this. And so you would be able to use this survey as a part of that process, because this survey is community-wide, or it's for parents, students, and all staff. And so there's different things that would be measured, not just staff climate. It is called a climate survey, but it also looks at the student learning environment as well. And so it is one piece of the review of our strategic priorities that you would engage in. So I do feel like it would be helpful for that.
And I would add too, one of the other things that kind of sold us on Hanover is there's a component of it of mental health assessment for the people that are taking the survey. So if students were taking it, there could be that aspect of it. The staff could be taking it as well. And so there would be some information that we would get back. And probably the best thing that I heard from them is that whatever the information is targeted, then we will be able to, as a district, to figure out, okay, here's this piece of information that says we need to look at our curriculum in this area, so let's hand that off to CAC. Or we need some more professional development when it comes to this topic. Well, let's hand that off to PLAC. So this is a multifunctional, multi-layer assessment that is hopefully going to be able to be parceled out to our collaborative structures that are throughout the district. So that's another one of the reasons that we really liked the Hanover product.
So we tried to incorporate the questions that you gave us ahead of time into the presentation, but I would open it up now for other questions or comments.
I wrote down a list of things that I needed to hear in order for me to want to back this. And the big one that I am not 100% on is, and first I want to say that you guys are the experts, and obviously I don't know anything about climate surveys. So I trust that you've done your due diligence. I also trust that you guys are working collaboratively and nobody's being coerced, so I'm very comfortable knowing that the BEA, the admin, and our future superintendent agree. But I would like to hear reassurance that there is shared expectation on how the data will be used.
Yeah,
Because
that's one of my top questions too, Chris.
because obviously, data can be used in a variety of ways for a variety of purposes. And unless we have shared expectations along with that collaboration, I worry that this may cause further harm if we're not on the same page.
Right, like tied into that, how do we get buy-in? What if we don't like the results of the survey?
I think part of that role comes with the rollout of the survey and then the rollout of the data that comes from it. And it's a communication piece. So that kind of ties back into our overall communication is something that we really need to work on. So we need to be specific in saying that this is what this survey is telling us at this point. And if you agree with it or if you don't agree with it, we can still have conversations about that, about why you feel that way. So I think if we just say, this is something that we're entering in a joint venture together with BEA and administration, and this survey data is gonna be like our driving force about how we're gonna move forward as a district together. And so making that expectation known up front and making that expectation known in communication when the survey results come out, I can't, wave a magic wand and make everybody believe that, but that's gonna be the message that we give out. And we're also gonna create an avenue that if people have other things to say about that, they don't believe it, they wanna see, more in-depth information about it, we can provide that for them and have those conversations.
But there should probably be some sort of accountability piece. We get survey information that says students aren't engaged. That's gonna require us to then look at our pedagogic processes and potentially change them. I'm a teacher. I don't want to hear that, but the bottom line is, if that's what the survey data is saying, then I have to be willing to commit that I'm going to make changes. I also have experience of seeing these results come out in a different district where there is no accountability and there is no buy-in, and so nothing's done with them. So my concern is, do we have a plan of, yes, we're going to sell it, yes, we're going to roll it out, but regardless, no matter what the survey says, no matter what we find out, we have expectations that the entire purpose of the survey is to impact student learning, and we're going to be holding people accountable for implementing whatever we find needs to happen. How do we have assurances of that?
One thing that Todd talked about in the future planning, he talked about us being partners in figuring out the survey questions, specifically the ones that could be added, is to have it be the board partnership as well. So have a board representative or two join us for those meetings to make sure that we're headed in the right direction and have that voice to make sure that there's that accountability place and the accountability in place, but also that we are going to use the data and we all have that shared expectation of how it's going to be used. Because I think that it is possible that things would be cherry-picked, because sometimes that's your go-to. You use a survey to confirm your own biases. And so I believe X, so I'm gonna find the survey questions that show that that's true. And we need to make sure that doesn't happen. And I think one of the things about having this third party is they'll come back and say, these are your top things. And there's a lot of competing interests in our organization of people needing resources and people having ideas. And you do need to be on the same page, which is this could help, like I said before, feed into the strategic plan, but also to say, we do understand that that might be a concern of yours, but these are the three that we picked related to staff climate for this year. We can't do everything, we can't be everything to everyone at the same time. And so it would, I think, help us to say, your feelings are valid, and here's but they're not the top three that we've decided, whatever Hanover comes back. These are the three things that we say would make the biggest impact for this year, because we can't just keep adding. We have to streamline what we do.
And I think the other thing, Kathy, too, is that with Hanover, it's a multi-year process. So it's not just a one-time assessment, and they say, here's your goals, now go goal. right? They're gonna come back in and they're gonna reassess in the second year, and they'll reassess in the third year to make sure that accountability for reaching those goals, or if you're falling short in those goals, how can they help provide more direction or more support? I think that was one of the things that really sold us on Hanover, is that they're in for the long haul, and it's not just a one and done, but more of a continual check-in with this third party that's helping us facilitate that exact thing out to our staff and to the members in Batavia.
One question, real quick, if you don't mind, is did you coordinate and kind of work with Tom a little bit on his opinions or thoughts associated with this yet, or not yet?
We did not. So he is, currently employed in another district,
I
so
know,
his
that's why
time
it's
is,
awkward.
his
I'm-
time is valuable. We did, ask him if he had a lead. After the first 3 vendors that we met with, we were not sold on any of them, so, we were trying to reach out, and somebody said we should ask our new future superintendent, and this is the one that his district uses, and he does endorse it.
And so they did a similar survey at that school that is ongoing right now, or they have wrapped that process up, do you know?
I don't know that specifically. I think they give it every year, but I couldn't tell you that for certain.
Okay, I think there's some, it alleviates some concern I have that shares with yours, that if he's aware of this process and he's aware of how it rolls out, there's not only expectations on what Hanover will do, but on what we need to do to make it actionable data and then also effective data for us to be moving forward. And so I think part of it is maybe at our, like if we say as a group go forward with this, as a part of our kind of first set of goal setting and meetings with him, is that we bring that to him and say, this is an expectation of the board, that this is how, that this is our expectation with this data. And put that as to a quasi-charge to him about that product.
You are asking us as a board to spend $48,500 per year, and you're talking about multi-years,
It's a 3-year contract. Yeah.
3 years.
And if I'm hearing everything correctly, both the BEA and the admin are committed to this 3-year program, and regardless of what the data tells you, to go with the recommendations of this firm and try to adjust the data so that we target those goals.
Not adjust the data, adjust our plans.
Plans, yes.
We don't
You're
wanna
not gonna
adjust
adjust
the
the
data.
data.
Okay, yeah.
That's a little.
Well, I mean,
Trying to move the needle.
well, I mean, adjust the data as in long-term, we want the data to change so that it
So
looks
we have-
better.
yeah.
That's what I meant by adjust the data, obviously.
Right,
We
like
don't want to
those are-
change the numbers, we want to change the numbers through action.
Right. And those are, I think those are my concerns, is that it's very easy to do these and it's all great, but one of the things that we've talked a lot about is that we're not always connecting things back to learning. And there's been a lot of other forces at work, but bottom line is we're a learning institution. And so that's my concern is this is important. So healthy teachers impact learning. But I want it directly related to, like, that's all great if they're all happy, but if they're not focused on learning, that's not the direction we want to go in. So that's just the philosophy, and the direction is every single thing in this should connect back to learning for students.
I really appreciate the fact that Tom has experience with the Hanover Group. I think that that's very helpful. However, my concern is, especially at this price point, having him commit to something that's 3 years long when he just got here.
Although I will argue too, Tom, when he interviewed, if we remember, one of the things that he did say that he had experience with and was going to be a focus was digging into data to see where we were falling shorter than we wanted to be, and then creating plans to move forward. So that is in line with what he'd already said, and I'm sure he's flexible enough to be okay with the tool that he's already familiar with, if that's the best tool that, and he was big on collaboration, so if that's the best collaborative tool that we can find.
With the data, how quickly, I'm been very vocal about low-hanging fruit. How quickly could this survey maybe produce some low-hanging fruit for us to make some movement to show that we're acting on this investment?
Well, I think we'll get the initial data back before the end of the school year. So depending on what that data shows, we would be able to meet with SMT and BEA and just kind of say, is there something that sticks out as something that we can do that's actionable and instantaneous to get us going to move that needle? So until we actually see the exact data, I'm not quite sure, but
Yeah.
I would hope that would be something that we would see right away as something is evident that we can at least latch onto and begin working with Tom on right away.
So what's the, it's probably in here and I just didn't see it. What is the proposed timeline?
So.
I see the payment schedule, but I don't see it.
So the timeline that we were told from Hanover is that they would be meeting with us in the first couple weeks of April to just finalize the questions, the survey tool itself. The survey would roll out at the end of April, and then they would get the data from that and disseminate it back out with recommendations and jumping off points to go forward before the end of the school year.
What's their typical participation rate with the survey?
That's a good question.
Because that's a really tough time of year.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's the one thing I was thinking is after spring break.
Yeah.
Oh, man, oh, man.
Yeah,
Like-
May is
Like,
rough.
we do a survey in another place that is nearby. And even like early in the school year, we put aside time, we have students do it, and you walk around just saying, hey, can you log into the survey and do it? And I still had less than 80% participation.
So just to be clear, most surveys do not require 100% participation to be statistically valid.
Right.
No.
But our
It's actually-
concern,
But they require
but our
some
concern continues to be what voices are we not hearing?
And why aren't we
so-
hearing?
Right, and so that is, again, the lens that we've said and agreed that we need to look at it through.
Fair point.
I think what is going to
'Cause I
be
agree.
a
Statistically.
turning point to that question, Aaron, is that whole idea of a third-party outside source
Yeah.
that's running the survey. We have a current survey that we use in the district called 5 Essentials. It's a state-provided survey. For a variety of reasons, there's not a lot of buy-in to that with
Yeah.
the staff in the district for, like I said, for a myriad of reasons.
Sure.
Giving staff an opportunity to have a new, fresh survey that's not a survey we've currently used, or seeing how the data from that survey's been used in any sort of different way in the past. And again, in that communication piece, when that survey rolls out, this is your chance, right? This is a new opportunity that we have. I can't guarantee numbers to you. I mean, I really can't.
No, we understand.
I can't answer that for you.
Yeah.
But it will be a priority in our communication that we have gone to these lengths of meeting for an entire year, starting with you as the board and working together through BEA and SMT to provide you with the opportunity that you're telling us you want your voice to be heard. This is your chance.
So you mentioned communication. I'm glad you brought that up. So would the communication come from the Hanover, or would the communication come from you two? Or you and Tom?
Or all of the above.
I would imagine it would probably be both to some capacity, but I know, speaking for me as president, I would have additional communications that I would, put out through BEA channels, through our executive board, and through BEA communications with that exact same message. You asked for your voice to be heard, here's your chance.
Okay.
So I guess it's
I'm
a
gonna
leap of
speak up
faith,
here. 'Cause I'm tired of this. I appreciate the work you've done, trying to collaborate, and I know it's been important work. But you are asking us as a board to spend $145,500 over the span of 3 years to essentially come up with work that you can't guarantee the staff is gonna buy into. As a board member, my fiduciary responsibility is to the taxpayers. And I know people are gonna laugh at that because we just sit here and we just approve $400,000 for computers and stuff like that. But if this is truly gonna be collaborative, I'm not even gonna think about passing this unless you and the teachers are gonna buy in and pay for half of it. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. We don't have a budget for that.
Well, then
So I think that,
that's how it's gonna be.
I think it's clear that we have some reasons to not vote on this tonight, but there are reasons to vote on it. So I'm gonna talk about what I'm hearing. I'm hearing we have unanswered questions financially. That might be more than you're willing to spend. The process needs to be more defined about like timeline and process and who's gonna communicate. We don't have that level of detail for you tonight. And I'm hearing also that you think that Tom needs to be more involved in this conversation. So those would be reasons to
postpone this vote. I hope that you wouldn't outright reject it, because we really do both believe that this is something that could be helpful, but we might not have the right timeline or the right process together. So reasons to vote for it tonight would be, I'm not sure of the timeline if we don't vote on it tonight with Hanover Research, whether or not we'd be able to get it and done by the end of the school year. That would be a reason to vote for it, and that I really do believe that this would be valuable information to feed into your strategic plan and have some baseline data. And Todd is correct, that we do both believe this is the right solution. So is it the right solution tonight? That's what you have to decide, if you need a little more time for us to go back to the drawing board and be a part of that conversation. So that's my take on what I'm hearing.
I got one last question. Is there an off-ramp? I mean, if for some reason, after getting the first survey results, if everybody in the district agrees that it's not what we are looking for, are we still obligated for those
Yeah,
final 2
it's a
years?
3-year contract.
Okay, so I'm thinking that we probably need to make sure that there's more information.
I'll just throw my 2 cents in here. So my thoughts are, if we did this, I'm not sure, I mean, I do appreciate the work you've done, but I'm not sure once we get the data, like what the action steps are that. And then I do appreciate that Tom has experienced it. I think it would be foolish not to have him be a part of the process if he's actually used the tool and provide his feedback on what works, what doesn't, so he could help guide this process. So I would think, I wouldn't really feel comfortable about implementing this unless he had a chance to get his hands around, because the way I'm reading this is this could drive a lot of decisions moving forward. And I want really him to have a big say in that. I wouldn't feel comfortable kind of not saddling with it, but here you go. And you didn't get a chance to develop how we're gonna use this tool. But for me to Sue's point, to spend this amount of money, I don't have a problem with it if we're gonna actually think it's gonna improve student learning and the student experience. At this point, it's not clear to me how that would work.
I just think they need to have some skin in the game. That's
I'll
all.
echo what you said about Tom. I'm willing to wait. I know that that's not what you want to do, but I'm willing to wait to make sure it's done right. I don't understand how this fits in the budget. I haven't heard that yet. And we've got at least 2 new board members that people are going to vote on. So for them to be part of this decision, I think would be more than appropriate at this time. So I would hold off on voting.
So what are we asking them to bring back to us? A, waiting till the new board is seated. B, a conversation with Tom. C, a specific actionable plan as to how we're gonna use the data. Chris, did I miss anything of your?
I think that there should be some type of board, either observation, it's part of the process, just so that they can, we can make sure that we have an unbiased observation of what's going on as far as how we're making these decisions,
How we
because,
do like, we always have board members. that
Yeah.
sit in.
Yeah, but you sit in these meetings and still, we need to have some, I don't know, guaranteed buy-in or,
Well, and the
You
truth
know.
is, we might not get buy-in, but we can still have expectations of what actions happen, right? So like expectations, consequences, conversations, all of that, right? So whether it's, so that can look a lot of different ways,
I don't
but
know.
if we're partnering, that I feel like we can address, but I feel like we want a little bit more of a specific plan to assure us that there really is buy-in, there really is going to be a plan as to, we're using this data regardless of what it says, and we're going to focus on student learning.
yeah.
But probably the biggest one is that the new board and the new superintendent should have a say in this. And I would agree. So then the next question is, do you guys want to talk about it the next meeting with the reorganization meeting? Or are we willing to push it back and we might not be able to do the survey this school year, but we hit the ground running next school year?
There's no need to push it because Tom won't be here.
Yeah, I think,
I think Lisa's and Todd's points are really good, that this will help form a strategic plan. But that strategic plan isn't going to be the first thing Tom does in the first month he's here, right? I mean, it's going to be a process as he gets to know us, gets to know our community. Okay, so can you
I just
address
don't-
those things and then?
yeah, I just don't see you're gonna have much buy-in anyways in April and May.
No,
Teachers.
right,
With the
there's a
survey.
concern with that.
That's a concern.
So, a timeline?
So which, so board participation in the next step also. So Kathy, as the president, you decide who sits on what teams. So if you can let me know who will be working with us to put that plan together and to be the voice of what we just heard tonight. Not that we
Okay.
weren't listening, but make sure
No,
that
yes, absolutely,
you're that voice at the table.
absolutely. And I think it should be one of the
So
four
what
of
did we
you.
decide?
So
You
we're bringing
decided
back,
to
we're
Somebody's
we're gonna get a timeline, we're gonna get some more actionable items, we're going to put it, not make a decision on this until the new board is seated. In the meantime, as they continue trying to beat out that plan, one of the four of you that is going to, for sure, still be on the board, should be the person sitting in on that committee. Does that make sense? So we can talk about that, if you have a volunteer or whatever.
Congratulations.
All right, we good with that?
Well, yeah.
Are there, do you have questions for us that you feel like we didn't answer?
I don't think I have any questions. I think that, like, it's okay for the board to have an opinion. Like, I just want to leave you with, I do feel like this is the right solution, and we will come back with, they will come back with a better plan with the,
I feel like it's not a no, it was more like a not yet. Does that make sense? Kind of? Except for Sue. All right,
I think it's good. I like it, but I don't like the money.
need to beat it out a little more.
I don't like spending the money.
All right, so that was that last item on our action, and we set that aside for the moment. So we're not going to take action on the survey activity tonight. So we'll turn it over to administrative comments. Dr. Hitchens, look at her.
I just have one. Today is World Down Syndrome Day. And if you're on social media, you'll probably see some of our staff tweeting about that. And I'll just read you the quote from the World Down Syndrome organization. Their theme for the year is "With Us, Not For Us." People with disabilities have the right to be treated fairly and have the same opportunities as everyone else, working with others to improve their lives. So we need to work with them, not for them.
Awesome, thanks, Lisa. Chris, we'll have you go first for comment.
Okay, I have some prepared statements today, but you only have to listen to this 2 more times. So, hello, community. If you're like me, it feels like everything is happening everywhere all at once. From local elections to spring sports and activities, there is a lot going on in our small city. As a soon-to-be former member of the Batavia School Board, I wanted to use one of my last opportunities from behind this desk to highlight an organization that is near and dear to my heart. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me and to learn more about the Batavia Community Diversity Initiative, or BCDI. First, let me tell you a little bit about our work with CARE, the Community Alliance for Regional Equity, a partnership created by the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. For those that don't know, last year, we were one of 12 organizations selected to help create a more equitable and inclusive communities by giving a voice to those who are traditionally excluded from the planning process. A minister representing a partner organization provided a great quote as we got started. "We may not have it all together, but together we have it all." It has been amazing what we discover with diverse voices at the table. Last week, we had our 3rd meeting and our first meeting hosted by one of our partner organizations. We were honored to be guests of Access Living, an organization that has been in the front lines of protecting the civil rights of those with disabilities since the passing of the American with Disabilities Act. It was great to see spaces designed to provide maximum accessibility. At our meeting, we discovered the 4 projects we're going to work on this year. We'll be focusing on the first project over the next few months before moving on to the next. While we were only introduced to the project and have yet to dig into the real work, I was very uplifted by the work we were able to do. One thing I found to be enriching and impactful was when someone suggested that we need to tell stories over data. While collecting and analyzing data is a necessary tool for most endeavors, we need to remember that there are real people behind those numbers, whose lives are affected by our decisions. It is those lives that are most important, not the numbers. The data should be used to improve those lives, not to simply alter the data. While it is wonderful we are able to do work for our region, there are also benefits for our community. CMAP is committed to providing resources to help us identify and solve problems here. This ranges from data analysis to identify high priority problems to helping us find funding to do the work. Additionally, BCDI has received an honorarium to participate in this work, which allows us to fund our own efforts in the community. Since our inception, we have made a conscious effort to learn as much as we can to do our work as honestly and as efficiently as possible. We have learned to move at the speed of trust. It is important to be deliberate and intentional when doing this work and always be willing to learn and grow. If you're interested in learning more about what we're doing and want to support our work, you can reach us at board@bataviacdi.org or find us on the web at www.bataviacdi.org. We can also be found on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Finally, if it wasn't obvious, I want to let you know I have no intention of stop serving our community. I am committed to building coalitions to make our community a more welcoming space for everyone, where everyone has the best opportunity to thrive. If there is anything additional I can do to make our community stronger, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you for your time, your trust, and years of support. Go Bulldogs and go vote.
Thanks, Chris. Good to know you're still going to be out there in the community. Aaron?
So I want to start by thanking everybody who attended tonight, everyone who emails the board, everyone who reaches out with questions. It's really exciting to see our community engaged right now. We have a big election coming up, so I just want to thank everyone who's participating in the process and getting informed about all the issues and getting interested in what's going on with our schools. I want to wish the best of luck to all the candidates on April 4th. It takes a lot of courage to put your name on a ballot. And it's vital to our democracy that people are willing to step up to serve, so I want to thank them for that and wish them luck. I want to encourage people to vote. You can go vote right now. April 4th is the day, but I like to vote early because it's a very quick and painless process, so there's lots of opportunities, so please get out there and make your voice heard. It's, again, very important to our community and the future of our community moving forward, and I just want to thank again all the volunteers in our community that support us. I had a chance to participate in a fundraiser at my daughter's school, and I think people still have short memories that it wasn't that long ago that we were separated during COVID, and I still, every time I'm in a group setting, kind of have to pinch myself to say, hey, we're back, we survived, and now we're moving forward. So I just want to thank everybody for that, and I just want to wish everyone a safe spring break. If you're traveling, be careful. I know when we get back, it's going to move fast. Before you know it, we're going to be talking about commencement. So everybody get some rest, and we'll see you when we get back from spring break.
Thanks, Aaron. Sue?
I just wanted to congratulate the women's girls wrestling team again, and just, I hope they really understand. Erin made the comment about your neighbor girl that's wrestling and how it's changed her life, and they really are making an impact. They're changing lives. That's so wonderful, and I hope they really heard that and understand that. That's awesome. I don't know what more I can say about the referendum that hasn't been said. I really thought about making a big, long speech and stuff like that, but just don't believe everything you read on social media. Oh, my Lord. Go to the website, get your information there, bps101.net. Do your research, go vote. It's vitally important. So, thank you. Have a great spring break.
Thanks, Sue.
I'm going to say ditto to my previous board members who spoke, so thank you for being so eloquent on that. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I just wanted to kind of talk about one thing really, which was some avenues that unique happened kind of in my sphere as working with the high school and kind of being around that. It's amazing how we get opportunities for our kids to participate in things in extracurriculars, but when they actually get real opportunities as a part of the music program and the jazz groups, they played over at the venue in Aurora, which is where I was last week, so I appreciate everybody allowing me to go do that. It was an amazing event. It's sad it'll be one of the last times I see my son play there. But then also just last weekend, a number of families braved the trip into Chicago because the Wind Symphony was able to perform with some other high schools that they effectively rented out the CSO and played at the Chicago Symphonic Orchestra event. That's places where we started. My wife and I were talking with Pearl Circle that we saw with our oldest son there. My youngest one was like 7 at the time, Wynton Marsalis go, and he had a little bit of a kind of a primer on jazz for your elementary school kids. So they talked about all that right beforehand. So just amazing opportunities that are available, and I want to thank the parent volunteers that help organize all that, and that those in the organizations that help contribute to make that an affordable event for everybody to be able to go to, and that other schools who I believe may have invited us to be a part of that. I appreciate that. It was really kind of unique, and these kids don't get to stand very often on a real professional stage. Sorry, I'm not knocking the fact there over Dominic, but to kind of do something like that they played there. So it was an amazing event. A number of us kind of got box seats, which was a lot of fun to sit in. I felt the rarefied air for a moment until I crawled my way back down to the level I deserve to be at. So just thank you to everybody that was a part of that process. So thank you.
Thanks, Craig. RJ?
I'll talk about the referendum, Sue.
Well, you do it.
It's not a
Great
long
job.
speech, really. So, since the referendum failed and we made the decision to put it back on the ballot, I've been a lot more active than I probably should be online, and definitely more than I want to be. But I really appreciate the conversations that have been happening out there. We found out that we had 2,000 visitors in the past 2 weeks on the website, so congratulations on that, because I believe leading up to the voting in November, we had 1,000 visitors total since the Building Our Future Together website was put up, probably 3 years prior to the voting. So double the amount of visitors in just the last week is fantastic. And I want to thank everyone who's been going to all the different events. I know a lot of you have been going, so thank you for going to the different events. We've been trying to be out there for the public for one-on-one conversations. We've been, I've took some questions and you guys handled them, so I really appreciate that, because those were straight from public comments that I saw online, so I appreciate that. And I've definitely, just in the past week, I think the forum was a real success at the library. Getting that set up was really important, because I mean, a week's time on the internet is a long time. And over the past couple of days, there's been a lot less, I should say, chatter, and definitely a lot less misinformation being out there. I definitely echo what you said about watching for the misinformation. I know that the two groups out there, the Vote Yes and Vote No, have been doing, I think, what they feel is best to get the information out there. And I appreciate that, to help make sure everyone understands the impact of the referendum. But I definitely would love for people just to use the website that we have, or reach out to the school board directly would be great. On a lighter note, yesterday I was at the public library for the Battle of the Books, which was the first time I've ever been there. It was a lot of fun. For those who don't know, it's all the 4th grade and 5th grade classes make teams of 4, and they read 8 books over, I think it's just like a 2-month period. And each of the groups has a quiz that the librarians put on for them. And one winning group from each school, each of our 6 elementary schools, competed at the Battle of the Books for the library last night. It was crazy intense, seeing these little 4th and 5th graders, like they're hiding their boards before they had to hold them up for everyone. I might be a little biased to say that HC Storm won, and my daughter was on the team. So,
Yeah.
congratulations to Team Hale. That's their acronym of their names. So that was exciting to be a part of, so I was happy. So that's it.
That's fun.
Thank you.
Thanks, RJ. Erin?
I just want to encourage everybody to vote. No matter which way you vote, it's important that you do so. I can tell you from the people that I spoke to after the last vote, if everyone who told me that I meant to vote, I should have voted, I forgot to vote, would have voted, we probably wouldn't be in this place right now. So, no matter how you vote, just please vote. It's really, really important. Be safe on spring break, and that's all from me today.
Yes, the good and bad of going last is you guys are incredibly eloquent. You cover every single thing. So I'm just going to give you guys a quick little shout out. Tonight's meeting is a perfect example of how we ask questions, we listen to each other, we discuss, and we always focus on what's best for students. And that makes me really proud to be part of this board. We do have closed session tonight, but there's no action after it. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session for the reason of collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employers or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Meadows, second by Meitzler. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, adjourned to closed session, no action after.